Well, today is a mixture of education and medicine. That is why I've gone for a professor who understands it all in the world of medicine. Well, good morning and welcome to Trailblazers Africa, the program that projects the good ones in Africa, what they do and how they have attained the greatness that they have attained today. My name is Moses Owopade, and today I've got the Dean of the School of Public Health of the University of Ghana. And the man has been to several parts of the world. He's been to various countries. He has won a laureate for this continent of Africa, a laureate that non-African has ever won. Well, what qualifies him to be given this honor? All of this we'll get to know from my guest today. I have in the house Professor Fred Newton Binka. He is the Dean of the School of Public Health of the University of Ghana, Legon. I want to say good morning, sir.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on our program, Trailblazers Africa, in spite of your tight schedule, because we were even told that as soon as you leave this place, the students are still waiting.
Yes.
Yeah, Prof, let's look at, I'm sure you were not born a professor.
No.
Oh, so how was the background like?
Well, I was born to a very humble family. My father worked with the veterinary services as a laboratory technologist, and my mother was a housewife and a petty trader. And my father, because of his work with the veterinary, we lived in many places. So originally I was born in Dodowa, Lungwa in Accra, and then we moved to Kumasi, where I started my early life. And then from there, we went to Pong Tamale in the northern region, where my father lived for about 17 years. So I started primary school at the Pong Tamale Early Primary School. I went to middle school there. And from there, I went to Pando Secondary School in the Volta region. And from there, I went to university.
Now, you were at the, you schooled in London, and also in Swaziland.
In Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Yeah.
Now, what took you to Switzerland?
In Switzerland, I actually was doing my PhD then with the University of Basel and the Swiss Tropical Institute. So that's where I did my PhD.
Now, in all of this, what was the challenge at the early stage that probably we want to discourage you that, I'm sure some of your peers, some of your friends then may decide to go. Some will say, let me go and begin to drive trotro. Some will say, let me. Was it that you were having everything you needed?
No, actually, it's quite been an interesting life. As I said, I grew up in Pong Tamale in the northern region. I used to attend school in Pando. At the age of 12, I used to travel alone from the north to the Volta region. It was quite a challenge. I remember one time they had blocked the Volta River when they were building the Akosombo Dam. So you couldn't go across from the north to the south very easily. So I would travel to Yendi, from Yendi to Bimbila, and maybe stay there for 2 days, and then take a truck, one of the yam trucks, to Pando. Wow. Which was quite an experience. And I remember those days were very tough. I just didn't know why at such a young age I was inflicted with those kinds of problems. So my mother used to put my school fees in my pocket and sew it so that nobody would pick the money in between the travels from. Yes, it was tough. Secondary school was also tough. Thankfully, those days, you could actually enter university from many universities in this, many schools in this country. So when I went to secondary school, I actually did my 6 years, in fact 7 years at Pando Secondary School, and then I got admission to the University of Ghana to do medicine. But before then, I actually was going to join the Navy, the Mercantile Navy. So I was at the school in Lungwa the Naval Academy in Ugwa, where I started first, because I wasn't sure I was going to get admission into medical school. So when I got admission to medical school, then I dropped off from the Navy, and since then it's really been it's been tough going through medical school. My parents we had a large family. We were about 8 of us, and it was really a problem trying to pay fees and look after me during my education. So when I was in medical school, I had an accolade which said I was a professional student. So I never went home. I always worked during the vacation. And that has actually helped me in my later years. So what used to happen was that during breaks, if we had 3 weeks break, I would go to one of the professors and work for him. Those days were no computers, so the professors needed people to put together their research work. And fortunately, I was very good in maths and statistics. So I would work 3 weeks putting together the data that the professors have collected and to help them to analyze it.
Wow.
And that was a small beginning, but that has been my life since then.
Wow. That means you have been in the academic world all along.
Yes.
Was it that you prefer, because some people would say that professors don't have plenty of money?
Yes. Well, I think there are a couple of antecedents to my own stay in the academic world. So when I left medical school, I didn't go straight to get into research. I actually worked in Ho, in the Volta region, for about 2 years. And then I went to Nigeria. I worked in Ibadan and also at Abeokuta. And then after working, I think for about 4 or 5 years, I felt that I wasn't very keen on the day-to-day clinical practice. The issue was that I saw so many things that were happening which we could prevent. So I wasn't really interested in the clinical practice. So I decided that I would go into public health and into research. So I came back to Ghana and worked at the Noguchi Institute for a while, and then went on to do my master's training in Israel. I was in the University of, the Hebrew University in Hadassah in Israel. And from then, I came back, and I had one of the biggest challenges. I was asked to go back to the north.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went to Navrongo and lived there for almost 12 years. So it wasn't straightforward that I was just going into research. But gradually, as I looked at some of the problems that I met in my career, it was evident that we needed to do something about that. And that's what has kept me in my work. I initially started working nutritional diseases like vitamin A, but then I went into working in malaria because malaria was a major problem in the Upper East region, in Kassan and Kanai district where I lived.
Now, let's now begin to go into the main issue, yes. Talking about malaria.
Yes.
And you have been named so many, they've given you so many names. They said you rather prefer preventive than curative. That's one appellation that they gave you. Now, why do you what are the preventive measures that we can all put in place instead of going for the curative?
Well, we are fortunate that in this disease, the major issue is that people are bitten by a mosquito. And it's the mosquito that is transmitting the parasite from one person to the other. So our first goal is to prevent being bitten by the mosquito. Once you're not bitten by the mosquito, you cannot get malaria, except in very rare occasions where people are transfused with the parasite. But generally, to get malaria, you need to be bitten by the mosquito. And we can prevent ourselves from being bitten by the mosquito. So that's the first goal, and that's what has been the drive. So my first work was looking at how you could use insecticide treated nets to protect yourself.
Okay.
You see, the other interesting thing is, although the mosquito bites us, most of the mosquitoes that transmit the parasite tend to bite at night. A lot of the ones which bite you in the daytime are not, they don't actually transmit malaria. Yeah, they are the nuisance ones that bite you.
So we have nuisance mosquitoes.
Yes, the cuticide mosquitoes. So if you were to protect yourself and not get bitten, then the chances are that you will not get this dreaded disease. And we all can protect ourselves. There are ways in which we do that. First, we can use a net. We can wear clothing that covers ourselves so that the mosquitoes don't bite us. In fact, the local people have many ways of doing that. They have herbs, they have grass they put around the house, which ward off the mosquitoes, and so on and so forth. So that's one. Number two, if you are bitten by the mosquito, you should be able to take drugs which will protect you from getting the disease. So we have 2 levels, and I'm hoping that very soon we'll have the 3rd level where we'll have a vaccine that protects you from getting the disease. Because the disease itself is more difficult to address, especially in our rural settings. If you have the disease and you don't have treatment, then the chances are that you could die.
Wow. Well, I've been speaking with Professor Fred Newton. He is a wonderful man, and he is also the executive director of an In-Depth Network. Well, this is the next area that I'll be going. What is In-Depth Network, and what are the activities of this organization? What is it all about?
So, I started as a research unit in Navrongo in the Upper East region, where we did work on the vitamin A and malaria. And I recognized that there were several of these sites in Africa who were working in isolation. And the idea was to bring these groups together to be able to improve on the methods that we use, to bring about some visibility and able to help us to compete to get research grants. So at this time I was already in the research business, and that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So this In-Depth Network is a network of such sites where health and population research is undertaken. And at the time we started, we were about 17 in Africa. So the idea was we contacted all these groups, and gradually, through several meetings and interactions, we agreed to form a network. And that's how the network started. That's what the In-Depth Network is about. And since I was one of the leading members, I became first the chairman of the committee that put it together. And then we went ahead and established it as an international NGO. And then I became the executive director to build that network. At the moment, I'm no more the executive director. I've actually moved on.
Wow.
So there are other people running it now. There's a colleague of mine from Sierra Leone, Dr. Osman Sanko, who is running it as the executive director. So the first thing was that we brought all these groups together. We started working together on addressing specific issues. So some people were working on malaria, others were working on HIV, and others were working on health systems, how to improve on health systems delivery. So this is the international network that is called the In-Depth Network.
Yeah, like how many countries are you now?
At the moment, the In-Depth Network is in about, I think in Africa, there are 15 countries where this network is based. And we've had our counterparts in Asia also have joined us. There are, I think, 8 countries in Asia that also are members of this international network.
Wow. This network, are they only for medical practitioners?
Yeah, most of the people who work in this, who are members of this network, actually work in health and population. They are not health medical practitioners. In fact, that's the beauty of this group. Most of these sites have a multidisciplinary team. They will have demographers, they will have clinicians, they will have sociologists,